Hi, welcome. So, in the last video, we looked at pivot tables and we noticed that it's a very interesting and very important tool to have in your analysis toolkit. Or if you want to multiply your efficiency in Excel, you need to master the pivot table. So, in this video, we are going to continue to play with the pivot table with the hope that it would make you more comfortable whenever you go around the pivot table, just to help you to practice more with confidence and be able to continue to learn and improve so that you master this and you're able to improve your efficiency in whatever thing you do in Excel. So we'll just continue from where we ended. So if you haven't looked at the first video, which was introducing you to the pivot table, then you can just go back and check the video. Then you come to this one to continue exploring the pivot table and all its powerful tools to be able to give you that exploratory data analysis, that descriptive analysis, and all the functionalities that you need to be able to be performant. So let's just go straight and continue with the pivot table. So here we are. We're back here. So I just want us to do a couple of things like see how to refresh the data in the pivot table and maybe do some other manipulations just to play and just to get more comfortable with the pivot table. So let me just go here, undo here. I'll just undo, go back, go back, go back. Okay, go back again. Now, or no problem. Let's just stay here. So now, what if your data source here? Remember, we had this data which ended here. I just press Control down to go right down, and go down. So let me just click here to make it easier for everybody. So if I go here, this is my data. Maybe it ended around 9376, whatever. So imagine that I just wanted to add this, let's say these last two figures, and then the data set has increased. So let's say we add these two here and we paste, and then we increase this salary here maybe to three, so very big figures like that. So like that. So I could just format it for you to see. And then we go to this, and then we go like this. So these two, we want to be able to see these two figures, like the 3 million and the 4 million from this Francisco and Lance. So now when we go to the pivot table, and then let's go back, we click here, we get our list. So let's just take away everything. The only thing we'll leave there is maybe just the salary. So let's just take back, let's just put the name, and we can still decide to just go with Lance, like Lance. So you see your filtering, everything comes into play here. So we remember that the person there, the name of that person is Lance, that we just saw. So we can still click like this, and then we go to OK. So that's Lance there, and then we wanted that. Now Lance has 40,000, but we want to be able to see this 4 million. Now we don't see it. So how do we get it here? That's why you would come to pivot table analyze here, because remember, whenever you're out of the object, nothing appears. But when you click on it, now the possibilities to modify the object appears. So you can now go to change data source. So if you come down here, you'll remember in the last video we talked about the reference A1 to G245. So if you come down here, you will see that your G245 is here. So you're not including 246, 247. So you could manually add the 247, put it 247, or you just simply reselect it again from scratch, reselect everything to include everything. Then you see the 247 is there, then you press OK. Now, when you go here, what do you get? You see Lance average salary has moved up to 2 point something million. So if you go to the sum of it, sum it, so it's now 4 million and the 40,000. So if you see here, what we had here, what we just added, now 4 million and the 40,000. So it makes it in such a way that you're able to go here, change your data source, get the new data and include here. That's something you can do. And then you can also click on the refresh time to time to refresh the data. This time it refreshed automatically, but there are times you just need to change the data source, and then you click on this refresh here to get it to refresh to the new data. So which means your data could keep increasing, and you just need to select the data and change the data source. So let's just take this, put this down again. I'll just put this down and then put this down again, remove the 0, and let's now if we decide that okay, we don't want to be going and changing the data source all the time, like going at what we just did, we could convert all of this to a table. So let's just say we go to insert, make it a table, and then we say yes, my table has headers. Yes, because these are the headers: staff name, date of birth, marital status. These are the headers. We click on OK. Now it becomes a table. Okay, so let's try again now. Let us take this again. Let's take maybe Lance again. For example, let's just take Lance, go here, paste here, and then add again some zeros at the back to that. Then we go to the pivot table now. So here, what we need to do is to go here and click on refresh. You see, we don't need again to change the data source. When we just click on refresh, you see it went to 40,080,000. So it's because of this 40 million, this other 40,000 of Lance, and this other 40,000. So it's 40,080,000. So converting it to a table saves you that step of going and changing the data, because when you go to check on the data source, it has automatically gone to the next line because it's a table. So same as if we went again to the data source and then we added a couple of lines, we want to see if it would change the data for us. So we are now at 248 as we saw. So let's just go and add a couple of lines here. Control C, come down and paste. So it should be at 250. Now let's go back there, click here, and then we'll not do the change data source. We'll just do refresh, and you see we get 80. So when we go to change data source just to see the data it is using, it has gone on its own to 250. So this changing your data set to a table would help you automatically select the data source for you, and the only thing you need to do time to time is just come here and click on refresh, and everything is very easy to go. Okay, now that's interesting. So let's go back, let's go to the pivot, and then we've selected Lance, so we could just select everybody here, and then we take off the name. Let's just take off the name. Let's go again to gender. So now we want to still, let me take off this one. So we are here, we are seeing the sum. Let's look at the average, because averages are usually interesting over like average of a couple of people. So here we have the average of the single, the married, but we want to see this in percentage, for example. So these are some other advanced functions of the pivot table. So how do we do that? We could either copy this like we did, copy. There are several ways of doing the same thing in Excel. Paste somewhere, and then we get another corresponding paste by it. Then with this one now, we maybe do now some division. We say equal to maybe this divided by this total here, or the grand total, depending if you want the percentage to be per column, or like this to be should be on these rows, or should be on the columns like this, or should be on the grand total. But how can we do that very easily with the pivot table, for example? So I'll just show you. I'll not go through the pain of doing that manually. Here we can go here, still take another salary again, drop it here. Now we have a second column. So there are two columns now for that. But the first one is the average. Yes, the second one, we go to field value settings. We could still go to the average. And then now, when we come here, we say show value as. So we click, this was summarize values by, but show value as. Now we have, it opens us to a whole wall of calculations here. Now, as percentage of grand total, as a percentage of the column total, as a percentage of the row total, or as percentage of whatever you decide, or the parental row, the parental column difference from. So it is really a whole new wall of possibilities here. So let's take grand total. Then we click on OK. Now what do we get? So here we would see that the if you come in, because now what would the pivot table do? Let me just minimize slightly. What would the pivot table do? It will now show you in terms of there's the average salary normally, and there's the percentage. There's the average salary and there's the percentage. So for the married, you can easily know these are all the percentages. For the single, these are all the percentages. Now, if I click here and I put this up, for example, I get all the married and single in one section, in figures, and I get in percentage in another section here. So you can group them like that. So some of these things, as I said, it's just with practice that you'll be able to see how all this, you just practice with time, you'll be able to understand all of them. And then you can see that this is the percentage that we have based on this total. So here is what we have here. So another thing you could do is you could still go back here, right click, and then instead show value as percentage of the row total. Let me just show you. So which means that here you have this, and then we could go to sum. Let me get the sum, go here, click here, then get the sum. So now, which means that here, when you look at these two, the sum of these two is 100%. It's 100% on this. This is 100%, is 100% here. So we've done it like this. So what is the highest contributor is the single, 90%, and the married is 9.9%. For the female, the highest, they are almost equally distributed. So this is some of the capabilities that you can have with the pivot table, and which makes it very interesting. So imagine that I take off this one, for example, and I'm left with just these percentages. I could have a report like this, which clearly shows me that on the male 100%, this is the contribution, this is the contribution. So I could maybe go here again, do my conditional formatting, get some colors, and we can clearly see that the single male have the total highest revenue, while the single female here, the married male, have the lowest. So you can get some insight just by playing with these advanced calculations in the pivot table. So you just go here again, go to field value settings. If you want the sum and no calculation, or you want the sum and maybe the sum to be percentage of column, percentage of row, percentage of grand total, whatever you decide, it's going to be. So if we have 100%, then this is the 76% is coming from this, 7.3% is coming from this, 7.2% is coming from this, and 8.5% is coming from this. So you see that clearly with these advanced calculations in the pivot table. Now, if you just explore, so here you could see that if we want the pivot table field list to go, we click here and they disappear from there. We bring it back and we have this field list. So you have these plus minus buttons that when you see on the chart, you can bring them or take them out. You have your field headers, you bring them back, you take them out, bring them back, and you could always modify some of these. So things like that, you could now just copy and create a report from here. So you have other things you can do here. Move the pivot table. From here, you just create a pivot chart here, and then you just select maybe this. It gives you a chart, and then you might want to take this off. You click here, you go here, the buttons, click here, it removes, takes off all these buttons, and then it just becomes like a simple chart. Now you can put them back and it becomes a pivot chart. So you can still filter here and say I want to see the female just here, and it filters it here. You click again and then you say I want to see the male, it filters here and it filters there. So just to show you things so that you know how to play with them when you see them and you be confident. So there are things you're going to see here later when we are doing the dashboard, but then you could be able to have, say, okay, do not show subtotals, show all subtotals in cases where we do sums like that, on or off the report layout. So you can change, especially when we have multiple things like maybe the names on some parts. Let me say we have like things like this. So you can decide to have select all. Okay, then you have different compositions. So you might want the report to be in a specific format. All the females appear here, then maybe you copy it and then you paste somewhere, like a report where somebody can still filter. Or you might want the report to look like this, do not repeat. So just play with these things and try to come up with things that can just pivot table is very interesting. There are lots of things you can do with it, and I hope for some of you who have never seen it before, it's going to stimulate your interest so that you can be able to play, explore, try to test hypothesis and be able to learn and master this thing. Because trust me, when you master this, you really become very productive with Excel. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're able to see some of the things that the pivot table can do, just to open your mind to the possibilities and give you that confidence to be able to explore and try things out. See you next video. Wish you good data luck.